Hello and welcome to Big Friendly Grub. I hope you are well. I've been doing the channel for a few months now and now up to video like number 20 something, 23, I don't know. That's not a bad little number considering, you know, I was starting this off as a bit of fun, something that I'd always wanted to do, but I was a bit unsure, a bit nervous about it. So we're doing all right. You know, 20 something videos isn't bad for a few months for someone who does this in his spare time once a week. And I'm enjoying it, and hopefully you're enjoying it as well. I was having a look back through some of the videos and we've done quite a bit already. We've done tarts, we've done chilies, and we've done bread, and we've done all sorts so far. But we've only done one cake, and that was the Victoria sponge snake, sponge snake, I don't know. The Victoria sponge cake that we did in like the second video, the second recipe video. There was 3 videos at the start and one was just me going like this, waffling, like what I'm doing right now, actually. But yeah, we've only done one cake, which is the Victoria sponge cake. So I feel like we have to rectify that in this video. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a, well, let me give you a clue. Yeah, what's up, duck? What? No, not a rabbit cake. Who makes a rabbit cake? No, it's a carrot cake, like Bugs Bunny. He eats carrots.
Oh, carrots are divine. You get a dozen for a dime. It's magic.
Never mind, tenuous link. Anyway, I'm going to be showing you how to make a carrot cake. But not just any carrot cake. No, it's a Marks and Spencer's carrot. Wait, no, it's not at all. It's a vegan carrot cake. Yes, we're going to be making a vegan carrot cake because it's got a vegetable in it, so surely vegans should be able to eat it. That only makes sense to me, but no, we chuck eggs and stuff in it and they can't eat it, and that excludes them, and that's not fair. When you think about it, a carrot cake is quite an unusual cake anyway, because whoever first thought, I know, I'm going to take this vegetable right here and put it into this cake. I'm going to put this down. But whoever first thought we were putting like a cake into a vegetable, or putting a vegetable into a cake, you know, they were clearly onto something, because now we have like beetroot cakes and courgette cakes or zucchini cakes if you're in the US, and we've evolved from that, and it really does work in certain circumstances. But enough of my waffle, because we're not making waffles, we are making cake. So let's get on with making this vegan carrot cake, because we're also going to have to make a vegan cream cheese frosting, and that's going to be very exciting. Frosting, that's an American term. Icing, a vegan cream cheese icing. I've done enough talking now, let's get started. Right, first thing we're going to do is get our dry ingredients into a bowl. I will put all the ingredients and the link to the recipe into the YouTube description as usual, so don't worry if I go too fast for you or miss something, which is quite likely. But the first thing we're going to do is put in 450 grams of plain flour. I've weighed this out already so we can move along quicker than we usually do. Then we're going to want 300 grams of light brown sugar. I'm going to sift this in because this tends to be quite lumpy. So, and I'm going to sift this in. This could take a while because it is quite lumpy, so we will move forward with the help of magic and also editing. So that's our sugar in. You don't necessarily have to sift it, just make sure that the majority of the lumps are out. Then we're going to pop in 75 grams of walnuts. I find these are optional, but you do get them a lot in carrot cake. I have actually blitzed these, so they're kind of a different consistency. We've got some finer ones, we've got some chunkier ones. You could simply just chop these with a knife if you want to, or you could leave them out entirely. It's up to you, but I'm popping these in. There's 75 grams here. And the last of our dry ingredients are 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda. We've got a teaspoon of ground ginger, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and half a teaspoon of mixed spice. This will give us a lovely plethora of flavours to go into here. So we're going to pop those in. I'm just going to bring it all together with a wooden spoon. So that's all of our dry ingredients mixed together. We can now put this to one side and get on with mixing together our wet ingredients. Right, to bring together the rest of our ingredients, I'm going to be using my stand mixer. So you don't have to use a stand mixer, you could use a hand mixer, or you could just use good old-fashioned elbow grease if you want to as well. I'm using a stand mixer today because it's not actually had a run out in the video yet, so I thought it should have its time to shine. So what I'm going to pop in now is, we've got 225 milliliters of oat milk. You could use any vegan milk you choose. You could use soy milk or coconut milk. I'm using oat milk because that's just my preference. I think almond milk and coconut milk have a bit too strong a flavour for this. I'm also going to add in 250 milliliters of the virgin coconut oil. That's the one without any flavour to it, otherwise you will get a strong coconut flavour if you use the non-virgin stuff. This is already melted. You may know already, if you keep this stuff around, that it tends to change its state depending on how warm it is on the day. So you may find it's already melted, or if it's a particularly cold day, you'll find it's solid and you'll just have to give it like a minute in the microwave in the jar. So I'm going to pop that in as well. Woo! Then it won't be a carrot cake without some carrot. So I've got 300 grams of grated carrot here. I've already grated it to spare you the agony of having to watch me grate 300 grams worth of carrot. So in that goes as well. Try and get it into the bowl, not all in and around the bowl like what I'm doing. So I'm just going to give that a quick whiz just to mix in the carrot with the liquids there. That was literally like 10 seconds of mixing, and then we're just going to have to get our dry ingredients in with this wet ingredients and mix it well. With our dry ingredients in, we're going to pop this onto like a medium speed to let it all come together. It will probably come up and make a bit of a mess. So that's already had a good mix. You might be thinking, oh, that looks a bit thicker than your usual cake batter, and you might be right, and we want it that way because obviously we've got no eggs in this, which would usually bring it all together and help it rise up and stuff like that. So it will be a little bit thicker than your average cake batter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this off and just scrape down the sides and then give it another quick whiz. You can see that's staying on there, it's quite firm. So just always be sure to scrape down your sides. Ugh, don't lose your spatula head in there, that won't taste nice. I really need a new spatula. I really need a new spatula. Okay, that's all scraped down. I'm just going to give it another 20 seconds just to mix the rest up, making sure everything's got together. That's our cake batter all combined. And as I said before, it is a bit thicker, but we want it like that because it is vegan, it's got no egg, which means that we're relying on its consistency to keep it all together and to help it rise and have a really nice texture. So we're going to need to get this into cake tins as per the tradition of baking cakes. And I've got two 8-inch cake tins which I've already lined with some baking paper. So I'm going to divide this into these two cake tins. You could weigh it out if you want to be absolutely precise. I'm just going to eyeball it because I'm feeling like a daredevil today. Plop a good dollop in here and another dollop in here. So I've got my cake batter into my tins. I'm just trying to spread it out as evenly as I can between the two tins, making sure it's as level as you possibly can be. It's looking pretty good, and this one as well. Now these are ready to get into the oven and get baking. So I'm just going to pop these into the oven, top shelf, for about a good 20 to 25 minutes on 180 degrees C. I'll pop all the conversions to Fahrenheit and gas mark into the YouTube description and the recipe as usual. So yeah, 20 to 25 minutes, 180 degrees, and we'll come back then and see how they're getting along. Right, it has been 25 minutes, and I think these are just about done. There we go, looking like a very good colour indeed. And if we pop in a skewer into the middle, comes out nice and clean, as you can see, hopefully. So these are now ready to be cooled down, because we're going to need to cool them down completely before we can even attempt to put our icing on them, otherwise it will all melt, and we don't want soggy icing. So I'm going to leave these to cool down in the tin for a few minutes before I try and handle them, because it's going to be extremely hot. Then I'm going to take them out of the tin, leave them to cool down on a wire rack completely, and then we can be decorating them, or some other grammar that is correct. So yeah, cooling down for these guys. Right, okay. So the cakes are out of the tin and they are now cooling down. I've already decided which is the top cake and which is the bottom cake, so that's why they are different ways up. They're looking really good. I'm really happy with those. You can see they've got a lovely texture to them already. Nice and springy, still warm, so we're going to let these cool down completely. And while we are letting these cool down, we can be getting on with our icing. our vegan cream cheese icing to be precise. So we can get started with that. I'm going to prepare the area and we will get going with that. Right, for cream cheese icing, obviously we'd usually use cream cheese and butter, and we can't use either of those this time because they both have moo with them, and today we don't do moo. So instead we are going to have to find alternatives. So our alternatives are vegetable shortening. So I've got 125 grams of vegetable shortening here. It goes by various brand names over here. You can get supermarket's own brands, or there's Trex or something like this. This is just a supermarket own brand vegetable shortening. So this is basically just vegetable fat. Now, along with our vegetable shortening, we're going to need cream cheese, and in this case, a vegan cream cheese. This one is called Violife. It's quite common over here in the UK now, and it is made from coconut oil, if I am not mistaken, but you can get other ones out there. I think there's like cashew nut based ones and all sorts. I'm using this one because it's probably one of the most common and it's easiest to get hold of. So I'm going to put in this full 200 gram tub of cream cheese. Oh, get in there. Well, that spatula really does want to escape. Okay, I'm going to switch to a spoon because this is getting silly now. There's our cream cheese in, minus any spatula heads and things like that. So I'm just going to pop this down, give it a good like 30 seconds to whiz up, try and combine these together, make it nice and creamy before we put in our icing sugar. So that's had about a good minute. I've also adjusted the camera angle because I think that's a bit clearer. Not getting so much of the mixer and getting more of the bowl now. But obviously this by itself isn't going to be particularly nice. It's going to be far too savoury. So we're going to need to add in a whole buttload of sugar. And what does a buttload of sugar quantify to? Well, in our case, 480 grams. We're going to get this in a spoonful at a time. Because if you chuck it all in at once, this is going to go absolutely everywhere. So I'm going to put this in a spoonful at a time, and we're going to just mix this all together until we get a nice icing. Pop in one spoonful and just put it on a low mix to start to bring it all together. You can already see all that icing sugar going everywhere. If I put that whole lot in, it would have just turned into a dust cloud. Another spoonful. And we're just going to keep doing that until all the icing sugar is added. So you can see that's combined into a lovely thick cream cheese icing. I'm going to get a little on the spoon there just to taste it. So that is really nice, but it's a little too sweet. So we're going to have to give it a little bit of tartness that you usually expect from cream cheese icing. And if you were ever in any doubt of how much mess that icing sugar makes, I can quickly show you. See, look. It's just coated everything. This is why I hate working with icing sugar. If anyone ever makes an icing sugar that is exactly the same but doesn't make a huge mess like this, they will make a gosh darn fortune, I can tell you. Hopefully it'll be me. Right, I've just cleared up all that excess icing sugar, which was making a mess everywhere. And now we can finish off our icing, which, as you can see, is lovely and smooth and creamy. So we just need to add into this something just to give it a little bit of sharpness that we would usually associate with regular dairy cream cheese. And to do that, we're going to need some lemon juice. So I'm using lemon juice from a bottle, which is absolutely fine, nothing wrong with it. You could use it straight from a lemon if you want to, but might as well just use this because I have it to hand. So I'm going to put in 3 teaspoons of it. And I'm also going to add in, just to balance out the flavours, just add a teaspoon of vanilla extract as well. So this may make our icing a little bit too loose, so we may have to add some more icing sugar in. You've got to use your common sense, you've got to use your eye here. So I would probably say that's a little bit too loose now, but this is fine, so we can add in a bit more icing sugar. So I'm going to add in another heaped tablespoon of icing sugar into that, just to hopefully bring that consistency back to how we want it. So I added a 2nd tablespoon back into there. So I think that's better. I think that's back to kind of where we want it to be. It's not coming off the spoon so quickly, but it's going to be nice and spreadable. So this looks good to me. It's ready for our cakes, but our cakes are not ready for it because they're still cooling. So I'm going to pop this in the fridge in the meantime, and we can come back later and finish our cakes off and get the decorating done. So our cake has had time to cool, and you can probably already see I've already leveled off the cake. So you can do this by either using one of these, which is what I use. This is basically a cake trimmer, which allows you to basically go back and forth over the top of the cake and level it out nicely. I tend to use these because I'm not very accurate with a serrated knife, which you could also use to trim off the top if you've got a steady hand and are confident. If you are not confident with a serrated knife, kind of like me, then you could use one of these. So we're going to layer up some of our cream cheese icing onto our first layer. Not too thick, just enough to sandwich the two together. Start off in the middle and you can work your way out. You're probably better off with one of these palette knives, which has a little kink in the middle. This just allows you to spread it out to the edges a little bit easier. Probably need to add on bits at a time just to try and get all the way out. You could also use a cake turntable to try and make this a bit easier. I do have one, but it's been a bit unsteady recently. I probably need to buy a new one, kind of like my spatulas. So I'm just doing this by turning the cake board around and around. You could also do this on a plate if you don't have a cake board. Just adapt as you need be. So this is looking quite good. It's not quite all the way out to the edges, but just enough to sandwich the two cakes together and have a nice layer. So I'm now going to pop our top on, press it down a little bit. So we've now got a nice layer of icing between the two cakes. So like we did before, get the icing onto the top. Just start to spread it out from the edges. So I think that's about a good amount of icing on there. We don't want it to go too overboard, otherwise it'd be the wrong balance of sweetness versus the lovely carrot cake. And just to finish it off, I'm just going to decorate it with some walnut halves, which I've held back. There we go, that doesn't look too bad. He says confidently, yeah, it's not too bad. But there you go, one vegan carrot cake. So I think the only right thing to do next is to give it a go, don't you? So there we go, one vegan carrot cake. It's not the prettiest cake I've ever made. I mean, I've made prettier ones. But as I said before, cakes are still fairly new to me. I'm usually more of a bread maker than a cake maker, and especially vegan cakes are even newer to me. I have had some successes with vegan cakes, and I have had some hideous failures with vegan cake. But this one is probably one of my better ones, that's for sure. It certainly tastes great. And it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too bad. I'll work on the appearance, and if I ever manage to refine the appearance, I'll be the first one to let you know. Now, I usually take my cakes into work if I can, and I certainly want to do this one because I've been promising the vegan guys at work that I would do them something vegan for weeks and weeks, because I keep taking in stuff they can't have. And I'm sure they're being very nice about it, but I'm sure they'd like something that they can have. And I don't want to be that guy who takes in a cake with a slice already out of it. So to be able to taste this but not have to cut into my cake and ruin it, what I have done is I've made a tiny cake. Look at it, it's so small and cute. And it means I can taste it without having to cut into the larger cake. So I'm going to give this a go right now. Look at it, it's so cute. Oh, no. Sorry. So let's give this a try. That is really nice. The icing, like I said before, is a bit sweeter than you would usually have it because you haven't got the tartness of the cream cheese. We added some lemon in there, but you're never going to get it exactly the same. But it's still really, really nice. And that cake is lovely, and sorry for the people who hate the word, that cake is lovely and moist. It's really, really good. The cake itself, I don't think you could tell was vegan. You could probably tell that icing is vegan if you eat a lot of icing like that, but it's still really, really good. And it's just a really, really good cake, regardless of it being vegan. If you're after a carrot cake that everyone can enjoy, then you can't go wrong with this, absolutely can't. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you're after more recipes, then obviously I've got more going on. If you have anything specific you want to see me do, let me know. If you want to see more vegan stuff, let me know and I'll certainly give it a go. Otherwise, that's it for this Big Friendly Grub. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, all that usual stuff, you know it by now. And until next time, I'll see you on the next Big Friendly Grub. Bye guys, I'm going to go finish this. Ooh. Don't know why I'm going over there, my sofa's over here.
And that's all, folks.